What's up, everybody? Welcome to Innovation by the Cup. This week, I'm running solo. The other guys are swamped with work. We do this all part-time, but we're still going to bring you some innovation, one cup at a time. So this week, we have a up-and-coming innovator. He's been through some cool courses. He's ran some projects, and he's trying to make a big change in his own organization. So I'm going to turn it over. Hey, what's up, Eve? Tell me who you are, kind of where you come from, and what you do.
So, hey, Cap, I'm Brandon Eastman. Currently, I'm an instructor for AETC. I'm originally aerospace propulsion. And so I teach that by trade on the B-1 bombers. So long story short, I'm an engine mechanic. Yeah, that's right. The big bad bone. And I'm originally from Anchorage, Alaska. I've been in the military for 12 years. So big change. I went from Alaska to South Dakota because I wanted to see the world, and that's what I got. And then Seymour Johnson did a year in Korea, and then came down here to Texas, and now I'm currently stationed in Dyess Air Force Base. But I work 372nd Training Squadrons, or my squadron's up at Shepherd, and I work at detachment here.
All right. What do you do in the innovation space?
So in the innovation space, what I currently do is I'm developing a spark cell for AETC and the squadron. So this Cap is shaking his head up and down with that big smile on his face. Long story short, I know there's probably another question for this later on, but I found out about the design warfare course, and then I decided to ping him and Major Bunker continuously until they pretty much just let me in because they didn't have another choice. They couldn't change their phone numbers or anything. And after going through the design warfare course, I said, okay, how am I going to apply this? And that's when I decided that AETC didn't really have a focal point for spark cells. And by building a spark cell network within AETC, we created our own network that we can help with, utilize for other MAJCOMs.
That's really cool. And I'm a big fan, we've worked together for quite a bit. So would you say, usually follow up with, you come into the space, there's all these people doing these things and they want to build each other as a collective. Like, was there a moment or a story or a time where either you were in the course that you went to or in your own space where you realized like, hey, like this is what I want to do. This is what I want to be a part of. Like, when was that kind of moment for you?
So that moment happened way before I ever got into this space. I'm a very straightforward person. When I went through design warfare course, I had an amazing group with me. And so I had a couple of other individuals that spoke a lot more than I did. But inside, I've always wanted change and progression. I always feel very stagnant unless I'm trying to make progress forward in some way. We gained this opportunity for me to go through the design warfare course. And I think it was within the first 3 days that I was like, okay, this is exactly where I want to be, right? I don't know what the end product's going to look like yet, but these are the kind of people I want to be around. And this is the kind of mindset that I want to be around and have for a long period to come.
I love it. I definitely, same thing, found it and was like, man, I finally don't feel weird for thinking this way. Like, when you get into it and what you've been or what you've done, would you say young buck coming through, airmen trying to get after it and get into space, like what would you give them as like advice? Like if they came through, like what would you tell them that you kind of wish maybe you knew?
That it was okay to fail. Right? We see failure as progression, right? So our problem statement or our original problem might not be the same problem for somebody else, but it's okay to fail. I've worked maintenance for 12 years where failure is just not an option. It doesn't exist somehow, even though it's human nature, right? So when I'm trying to work on a regular day-to-day basis, failure's not okay. And then all of a sudden it's okay. And it's like, wow, I haven't felt this way for years, right? So when a brand new airman or A1C or something wants to come to the space, see it as an opportunity to grow not just by fixing somebody's problem, right? But grow in an intellectual way to say, okay, it's okay to fail and look at a different perspective and go with that different perspective and try and solve the problem. So just hold on to it and keep that mindset as you go, to know that there are people just like them that want to solve problems, and it's okay for failure. And we just see it as a better challenge later on.
I love it. What a value to have. What a good principle to stand by. It's something I'm definitely passionate about. And I really appreciate the fact that you see that in your space and you're building it as well. So we got some good advice. Now, tips and tricks. What is something that has really given you kind of some inertia to move forward, or that really helped you gain gain the inertia that you wanted and help you really drive the mission that you want? What's a tip that you would give somebody?
So my major tip that I take away from my current situation and what I'm trying to do is already establish the momentum forward, right? I had already gotten funding to start Sparksville before I even briefed my commander that this is what we were going to do, right? We were going to move forward with or without somebody, right? That put us in a position, essentially, not, I want to say power, but it's a little bit less than power, right? We can sway the momentum in the way that we want it to go that way, right? Whether or not we have the blessing or not, we were going to be able to create something wonderful, whether or not people wanted it or not. And so to just do that, right? Prepare before going to somebody that might possibly tell you no. Make the situation to where they have to say yes. They have to say that I want this. I want it right now, right? And that's exactly what happened. We came to that space and he said, I want this and I want it now, right? And so now we're trying to put a spark cell in each region of AETC and then work our way up from there.
Man, that is cool. I'm sorry, I get so pumped when I hear you talk about this stuff, and then kind of again being on the fringe of it and building that and having that inertia, and just know that you're like at any point you're ready to let the leash off and just go. So as we come from there, East, what drives you? As we close this out, I want to know what drives your vision, what drives your focus, and kind of what does 2030 look like to you? You're in the space, you're catalyst now, and I want to know. I want to hear that. I want to be fed. Charge me up with something.
Yeah, definitely. I think about this all the time, right? I'm sitting on the back deck, having a beer, thinking about what's going to come 10 years from now, right? This will be something that hopefully I can continue to do well after my military career, right? And it's because I see this as the way of thinking going forward, not just for the Air Force, but future thinking for businesses and corporations that don't really think in a non-structured type environment, or they see failure as a weakness, right? So I see this as the way that we allocate and create and innovate and create processes and policies to help us grow for not only the next conflict, but just creature comforts at home as well. And so without what I learned in design warfare, though, I would still be thinking the way that the Air Force is continuously thinking, the up and down the chain, the no's and the yeses and everything like that. So I believe that this eventually will take over that whole entire space, right? Because it decreases workload for somebody within the chain. And then all of a sudden you're solving problems at the lowest level. Not everybody needs to be involved. So it's kind of hard for me because I work AETC, we're on a 4-year code 50 rotation and everything like that. But we already put in place our 2030 plan, right? We have the B-21 coming to DIAS at some point in time in the next 10 to 12 years, okay? So we wanted to make sure that we established our detachment, our spark cell, as part of the whole spark cell network around the globe, and then create that environment to where we're already prepared for the next generation aircraft, the next fight, the next situation, the next training environment, because we already know how a better system works. And so we're ahead of the power curve. And that creates this environment to where people either want to stay where they're at right now, well, forget them. They could stay in their lane. We're charging forward.
Yeah. Peace. I love it. So everybody out there, today we covered some tips and tricks, advice, the debt of debts, building some spark cells in areas. understanding that you can build inertia from the ground up and solve problems for them, and just having all that potential, just building on potential. And we also discovered that East has a secret epiphany deck that if we want to find some new ideas, we should probably go out there for a cup of coffee, whatever we enjoy. So again, everybody, hopefully this was Innovation by the Cup. We bring you some good stuff. Let us know comments on these posts and what you want to hear, what you want to see. We'll bring it to you. Eventually, if anybody ever asks for a case study, we got you two there. We'll try and build and grow as much as we can.